All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. As always, we have a really cool source to dig into today. It's called, get this, interpretationspace.txt.
Catchy, right.
Super catchy. And it really is about, like, how we interpret the universe.
Yeah. Basically, this source, it kind of throws everything we think we know about, like, the universe, right out the window.
Out the window.
Yeah.
So where do we even start with this?
Well, the core idea here is that everything, like literally everything, is made up of what this source calls changing space.
Changing space, okay.
Yeah.
So not matter, not energy, as we traditionally think of it, but changing space.
Exactly. So you can think of it as like the fundamental, the most basic building block of reality, and it's always in motion, always transforming.
Okay. So that already is kind of a big shift from, like, atoms and quarks and all that stuff.
Right. It really challenges our typical way of looking at the universe. And, here's where it gets really interesting. The source says that even we, like us humans, we are also expressions of this changing space.
So it's not like we're these separate beings observing the universe from the outside. We're actually part of it.
Precisely. We are in the universe, not separate from it. We're like little whirlpools in this vast ocean of changing space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
It is. But it leads to some really fascinating questions. Like, if we're all part of this changing space, how do we even begin to understand it? And that's where the idea of, it calls it interpretation space, comes in.
Interpretation space. Okay, so is that like our attempt to put this changing space into some kind of framework that our brains can grasp?
Yeah. Think of it like a map. Right. A map is not the actual territory. It's just a representation of it, a way to understand it. So interpretation space is like all the concepts and frameworks we use to try and get a handle on this wild, ever-changing reality.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yeah.
So give me some examples. What kind of stuff falls into this interpretation space?
Oh, pretty much everything we consider scientific knowledge, like particles, fields, the whole shebang, strings, holograms, even forces, space-time itself, gravity, quantum mechanics, gravitational waves, gravitons, laws, white holes, black holes, wormholes. Oh, and time travel, supersymmetry. It's all part of interpretation space.
Okay. So it's not saying these things don't exist. It's just saying that there are a way of interpreting this underlying reality of changing space.
Right. Exactly. And what's really interesting is that interpretation space isn't static. It's constantly evolving as we learn more, as our understanding changes.
Right. Like, think about how much our understanding of the universe has changed just in the last 100 years.
Totally. Like 100 years ago, we didn't even know about quantum mechanics. Now it's like a cornerstone of physics.
Yeah.
So who knows what our interpretation space will look like 100 years from now.
Exactly. It's like we're constantly redrawing the map as we explore the territory. But the territory itself, this changing space, it's always there.
Right. And that's what makes it so mind-blowing. This source even goes so far as to say that even the scientific method itself is part of interpretation space.
Wait, really? So even the tools we use to understand the universe, they're not objective. They're also interpretations.
Well, think about it. The scientific method, it's all about setting up controlled experiments, measuring things, and trying to eliminate bias, right? But those are all choices that we make. Those are frameworks that we create.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like we're always looking at the universe through these human-made lenses.
Exactly. And the source points out this really interesting thing that scientists do all the time. They're always separating the measuring apparatus, like the tools and instruments, from the thing they're observing. But what if it's all just part of this interconnected changing space?
That's deep. It's like we're trying to draw a line between ourselves and the universe when there really isn't one.
Exactly. And that brings up maybe like the biggest question of all, right? If everything we know is filtered through this interpretation space, this human lens, does that mean there's no such thing as an objective reality outside of our own minds?
Whoa. Okay, yeah. If our interpretation space is like a map, are we just making up the territory as we go along?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, does it even matter if there's an objective reality out there if we can never truly access it outside of our own interpretations? Is the act of interpreting what creates reality as we know it?
Okay, I got to be honest, my brain is kind of melting right now.
I know, right? It's a lot to wrap your head around. But I think that's what's so cool about this source. It's not trying to give us all the answers. It's more like it's throwing out these really provocative ideas and inviting us to, to question everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a deep dive. So as we wrap things up here, what's the one question you think our listeners should be taking away from all of this?
Well, I think the most important question is If all our knowledge is ultimately interpretation, how does that change how we approach the world? Does it make our understanding less valid? Or does it actually open up new possibilities for exploration and understanding? Like, does it free us to be more creative, more open to new ideas?
Man, that is a fantastic question.
Yeah.
Definitely something to ponder. And hey, listeners, if you've got any thoughts on that, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
But for now, it's time to surface from this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.